7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey is a great book for new managers. That's why in this video, I will give you examples how to implement those habits in your role as a new manager. Habits are divided into 3 groups. First is independence. When you become a manager and you have your own team, it's truly the first time when you have some level of independence. So you can decide how to set up the team so it will be effective. Second is interdependence. So even though you set up the high-performing team, you cannot work without connections with other teams and with customers. So to bring your team to the next level, you need to apply habits of interdependence. And the last thing is about continuous improvement. World is changing, everything is changing around you, so you need to have a way to adapt to those changes and to drive change within your organization. So let's jump into the first habit. First habit is be proactive. And by being proactive as a manager, I mean that you should be able to identify the issues, have options to solve them, and being able to drive the resolution. So for example, if you see that your project is being delayed, you shouldn't go just to your manager and ask, what should I do? When you are a proactive manager, you should come up with the options how you can solve that. For example, you can identify the key dependencies and focus on resolving them. And even if you are not sure if your plan is the right one, it's much better to go to your manager with this plan and ask for feedback rather than just waiting for directions. But on the other hand, being proactive can be overwhelming. There are so many things that going around you and you don't have influence on all of them. And that's fine. By being proactive, it also means that you need to focus on your circle of influence. At the beginning, it will be small, but that's completely fine. But by focusing on things that you can actually influence, you will be able to actually drive the result within that. And over the time, your circle of influence will grow. Being proactive doesn't mean that you can't ask for help. But when asking for help, make sure that you are precise what kind of help you need. Second habit is begin with end in mind. One of the key expectations people have towards manager is to bring a vision, a goal, and basically direction what they should be doing. And to give such direction to the team, you need to understand the bigger picture and you need to understand what's the expectations for you. So first, understand what is expected from you to deliver within your organization. And second, make sure that you identify a goal as clearly as possible and communicate that to the team. So for instance, if there are 3 main projects for the next year, but for the next quarter, the first one is the most important one, make sure that you will reflect that into team's goals for that quarter. Explain to the team why this goal is more important to the others, and make sure that list of tasks that you are going to execute follows that priorities. But also remember about developing your team. Your team members have their career plans. So when executing those goals, make sure that you also incorporate their development plans into the right tasks. Assign the task that helps them to develop their skills, their capabilities, and build experience that they can use in the future roles. Third habit is put first thing first. You can be overwhelmed with the different tasks incoming into your team and to you. But a good manager has a habit to identify which tasks are important, which are not. You can use Eisenhower matrix to identify which tasks are important and or not important, and which are urgent and non-urgent. And if there are tasks that are really important and urgent, make sure that you execute them as soon as possible. The most important part of being manager is to make sure that those things that are important but not urgent, you're taking care of them. So we will have a plan for the future, because those things are usually the things that helps you to drive improvements, drive the project forward, and is basically helping to overall develop the team in the long term. So what should you do when you have a new task coming to your team? First of all, try to define if that's something that you actually be doing. If this task can be deleted, just delete it. Don't do this. Second thing, define if this is something that you need to do or you can delegate to the team. And if you can delegate to the team, make sure you delegate to the right person. But if this is something that only you can do and only you can drive it forward, decide whether this is urgent or non-urgent. If that's truly urgent thing, okay, make sure that you execute it right away. And 90% of the things are not urgent. So try to put them into the schedule of the meetings that you already have and try to process them according to your processes in your team. So these 3 habits explains how you can operate your team as an independent unit. So first, be proactive, identify issues, and make sure that you are driving the resolution. Second, start with end in mind. So have a plan for the future, set the goals, and execute them. And the third, put first things first. So prioritize well, so you will be not overwhelmed with non-important, non-urgent tasks that you are executing. Now, let's move to interdependence. So how to operate your team within the broader picture of organization and collaboration with your customers. Habit number 4 is think win-win. And by thinking win-win is to look for the options to collaboration that will benefit both sides. So for example, there will be very often situations when you will have your team and along your team will be a second team that will work on different part of the same project as you. For example, if they are behind their schedule and they need additional one person to execute the task to make sure that they are on time, you can decide to move one of the people from your team to their team to help them to execute. But make sure that you also benefit from that. Maybe there are some part of the project that you can reuse later in your part, making sure that the execution of your part will also benefit. Also, consider long-term benefits, because very often if you help other people, there will be situations in the future that they can support you. For instance, if you help the other team with the additional person, when you'll be having an option to take another project and your resource estimation will be just on the edge, whether you can take it or not. And you can seek a support from the other team to ensure that if there will be some issues with the execution of your project, they assure that they will help you to execute in case any issues. Habit number 5 is seek to understand, then to be understood. And it's all about trying to understand the perspective of other person before giving yours. As a manager, you need to truly understand your team, your manager, and all the stakeholders. What are their needs and how you can help them to proceed. In the context of your team members, first, you need to understand what are their career plans. So make sure that you have this career discussion with them, so when you assign the task to them, it will support them in their development. Second thing is, if they're executing not as you would expect it, try to listen to them. Maybe they have some issues that they cannot resolve without your help. So understand what are their perspective and help them before punishing them for bad execution. If you are collaborating with the stakeholders or customers, make sure you understand what they are willing to do. By understanding what's their goal and what they wanted to achieve, very often you will be able to bring much simpler solution rather than just implementing based on the high-level requirements that they provide. Habit number 6 is synergize. And it's all about the idea that sum of each of the part is greater than each part of itself. And I think the best way to implement that in your first year of being manager is to ensure that your team has a safety net. And by this, I mean that you won't do the task for your team. They still need to execute their part of the work. But by assuring that they should do whatever they think is beneficial and the right thing, and you will support their decisions, it's a very important and powerful tool, because they will be assured that they can take some risks. And even they fail, you will stand up and support their decision. But make sure that we will discuss with them how to avoid these failures in the future, but that will be a habit number 7. And before going to habit number 7, let's summarize the interdependence habits. All of them are about building synergies, looking for options to have win-win situations, and making sure that you understand the people you're working with before you ask them to understand you. Habit number 7 is about continuous improvement. So whatever you learned about previous 6 habits, you constantly need to evolve and learn new things because everything around you is evolving. Your team is evolving. So your competences, skills, and how you execute those habits need to evolve as well. And the good way of implementing continuous improvement within your team is to set up some retrospective session with your team once a month or maybe once a quarter, where you're going to discuss what are the things that you're doing well and what are the things that you can improve. And don't try to improve everything. Just select one thing, one simple thing, and try to improve this one at a time. That will truly benefit to the performance of your team because you'll benefit from the improvement itself, but it will also build a huge amount of trust within the team because they will see that you truly care about improving and you truly care about feedback that they have to the team. If you enjoyed these quick management tips, make sure to subscribe and we see each other in the next video. Cheers!